Adjunct Professor Moran, Macroeconomics 111. We've begun discussing our consolidated model where we're going to have all four variables of aggregate expenditures included. So in the private closed model, we only had C plus IG equaling to gross domestic product. And what we did is we took consumption and tried to predict it using disposable income. We made some assumptions so we could add. We made some assumptions such that disposable income and GDP were equal. So all we had to do to get our consumption line related to GDP was just move it over because they're equal. Now, in the last unit, and we needed to try to explain business spending. We explained business spending with changes in interest rates. This is the demand for new business dollars, which is a negative relationship between business spending in dollars and interest rates as a percentage. At a high interest rate, not a lot of business spending will be undertaken because business is a cost. And so fewer projects will look profitable at a high interest rate. But at a low interest rate, more projects will look profitable, and so more business spending will be undertaken. Now there's no way, we need to get business spending on a graph with GDP, just like we did with consumption, but there's no assumptions that bring interest rates into equality with gross domestic product. So what we have to do is take a snapshot in time of whatever the actual interest rate is, and then pick that dollar amount of IG, maybe 10. So we now have 10 is IG. This flat line means that IG is independent of changes in GDP. Changes in GDP do not predict changes in business spending. We've made an assumption that changes in business spending is caused by changes in interest rates. Now we can add these two. We can add this one and get aggregate expenditures. See? A constant amount of 10 between the two. So this is C plus IG, aggregate expenditures. But now we want to add our two other variables. So far we've got consumption, C plus IG. Now we're going to develop government spending, and we're going to assume government spending is also independent of changes in GDP. We're going to assume XN is also independent of changes in GDP. So now we can add government spending. A constant amount gives us a parallel line, C plus IG plus government spending. And now we're going to take a constant amount of XN with respect to GDP and add that in. And now we have all four of our variables in the model consolidated into one aggregate expense line. So now when you write this, you don't have to distinguish between each of the four variables. You just write aggregate expenditures. This would be aggregate expenditures here and gross domestic product. We have all four of our variables included in the model.